In the small, isolated town of Dunwich, nestled in the hills of Massachusetts, strange occurrences had been reported for years. Whispers of supernatural forces at play had long circulated amongst the locals, and many spoke in hushed tones of ancient powers that lurked just beyond the veil of reality. Few dared to venture into the woods that surrounded the town, for it was said that the trees themselves held secrets that were not meant for human eyes. But there was one man who had been drawn to Dunwich, compelled by a curiosity that bordered on obsession. His name was Randolph Carter, and he had spent his entire life in pursuit of the unknown. Carter was a man of letters, a scholar who had spent years studying the arcane texts and tomes that were said to contain the secrets of the universe. He had delved deep into the writings of the ancient Greeks and Romans, and had spent countless hours poring over the dusty pages of medieval grimoires. But despite all his learning, he had never encountered anything quite like what he found in Dunwich. It was on a moonless night in the depths of winter that Carter first entered the town. He had traveled for days through snow-covered hills and dark forests, finally arriving at the outskirts of the village just as the sun began to set. The buildings were old and dilapidated, their windows shuttered against the biting wind. But Carter sensed that there was something more to the town than met the eye. He spent his first night in Dunwich at the only inn in town, a ramshackle building that looked as though it might collapse at any moment. The innkeeper was a surly man, with a face like a weathered piece of leather. He eyed Carter suspiciously as he handed over the key to his room. Carter spent the evening poring over his notes, trying to make sense of the strange symbols and arcane languages that he had encountered in his studies. But he found it difficult to concentrate, for there was a sense of unease that hung over the town like a thick fog. He could feel it seeping into his bones, and he knew that he would not be able to rest until he had explored the secrets that lay hidden in the hills. The next day, he set out into the woods, armed only with a lantern and his boundless curiosity. He had heard whispers of an ancient stone circle that lay deep in the forest, and he was determined to find it. The journey was treacherous, and he stumbled more than once on the rocky ground. But eventually he came upon the circle, nestled in a clearing amidst the trees. It was a sight that took his breath away. The stones were ancient, their surfaces covered in strange symbols that seemed to writhe and twist in the flickering light of his lantern. Carter could feel a power emanating from the stones, a force that he could not begin to comprehend. He knew that he was standing at the threshold of something ancient and terrible, something that had been sleeping for centuries but was now stirring. And then, suddenly, he heard a voice. It was a low, guttural growl that seemed to come from all around him. "Who dares to disturb the circle?" it boomed. Carter was paralyzed with fear. He could not see anything, but he knew that he was not alone. "I am Randolph Carter," he stammered. "I come in search of knowledge." There was a long pause, and then the voice spoke again. "You are not welcome here, human. This is not a place for the likes of you." Carter knew that he should turn and flee, but he was consumed with a burning desire to know more. "Please," he said, his voice trembling. "Please, I implore you. I seek only to understand the mysteries of this place. I mean no harm." There was a moment of silence, and then the voice spoke once more. "Very well. But be warned, human. The knowledge that lies within this circle is not meant for mortal minds. It is a power that can drive a man mad." Carter nodded, his heart racing with excitement and fear. He stepped forward into the circle, his hand trembling as he reached out to touch one of the stones. As soon as his fingers brushed against the rough surface, he felt a surge of energy course through his body. It was like nothing he had ever experienced before, a sensation of pure, unbridled power that threatened to overwhelm him. And then, suddenly, he was transported to another realm. The forest around him dissolved into a swirling vortex of colors and shapes, and he felt himself hurtling through space and time. It was like being caught in a hurricane, a maelstrom of energy that threatened to tear him apart. He screamed, but there was no sound. He was trapped in a world beyond words, beyond human comprehension. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. Carter found himself back in the circle, his body trembling with exhaustion. He looked around, but everything seemed normal. The stones were still there, the forest still shrouded in darkness. But he knew that something had changed. He could feel it in his bones, a sense of unease that he could not shake. He had glimpsed a world beyond human understanding, a realm of madness and chaos that threatened to consume him. He stumbled out of the circle and made his way back to the inn, his mind reeling with the knowledge that he had gained. He knew that he would never be the same again, that he had seen things that no mortal should ever see. But he also knew that he would never stop seeking out the secrets of the universe, no matter how dark and dangerous they might be. For Randolph Carter, the pursuit of knowledge was an obsession that would never die.